It's essential to have a great ragu recipe under your belt, and today we've got a very rich and indulgent version using beef cheeks. So first of all, I'm going to trim them up. You'll see each beef cheek has a layer of fat on that. I'm going to try and take a bit of that off. If you're left with a bit of sinew, that's all good because it's going to break down as it braises. So we're just going to brown up these beef cheeks now. So I've got my pan on quite hot. I'm just going to put a bit of olive oil in. It's worth taking the time and make sure there's really a nice caramelized edge on all the beef. We'll just take those out the pan now. So I've just got a whole onion. So I've kept the oil in the pan. There's about 2 tablespoons. If there's more than that, just take it out. But we're going to boost the flavors with a bit of chili flakes and some fennel seeds. Just give that a stir around quickly before we dunk in these onions, and then in with the onions. And always when you're cooking onions, just give them a bit of salt because that just brings out a bit of the moisture from them. So while that's browning, I've just got 2 big garlic cloves. If you don't have big ones, just maybe use 3 and just give them a rough chop as well. I've also got some rosemary, so just detach those leaves. And then just in with some tomato paste. So I've got quite a bit of tomato paste here, and it's essential that when you are putting tomato paste in, you need to cook it out. And then I've got 2 cans of cherry tomatoes. You can also just use regular whole tomatoes, but the cherry tomatoes actually keep their shape for the few hours that it cooks. So just get a cup of water. We're just going to rinse out these cans, just so we're using every bit. And then also some red wine. Never use wine that's not good enough to drink. And now we're just going to bring that to a simmer. Okay, so let's come to a simmer so we can add our beef cheeks back. I've just got some basil here. If you just take about half of the bunch, and we'll use stalks and all, and we'll go straight in to the dish. We'll be taking it out afterwards. We'll obviously be using parmesan because we're doing a pasta, but we'll use the rind. So if you just cut off that bit of rind, it's really going to give a nice umami flavor. Tuck that in, push in the basil, and then turn that down to low, and we'll cook that for about 3 hours until those beef cheeks are really, really falling apart. So we've had our 3 hours. That beef should be really tender, but what we're going to do is just simmer it for another 30 minutes uncovered, and that will just reduce the sauce and intensify it a bit. So I have some water coming to the boil. We can get our pasta in, and while that's boiling, we can start to shred the meat. But first, we're just going to take out the basil, and then also that parmesan rind, and then take each beef cheek out, and we're just going to shred it with a fork, and just get rid of any of the sinewy bits that you don't want. So the pasta's almost done, but what I'm going to do is make a fresh tomato topping. So I'm just halving these grape tomatoes, or you could use cherry tomatoes. Let's get them into a bowl. A bit of salt. At the same time, season your sauce. A bit of pepper for both too. And then I've just got a lemon. If we just give it a roll to release some of those juices, and just squeeze it over. And then some more of those fresh basil leaves. If you just pick them, some of the nice smaller ones, and then we'll just toss that through as well. Okay, so we can finish the sauce off now. Lastly, I'm just going to add a little bit of caster sugar, and that's just going to balance out the acidity of all those tomatoes. And the pasta's cooked, so we can go straight in. Okay, and we'll just add about half a cup of that pasta water, which is really nice and starchy. And that's just going to loosen up the sauce a little bit more. And now we can just give it all a toss together. Okay, and that's it, so we're ready to plate up. So we'll just go straight into a bowl. Make sure you're collecting a lot of the sauce in the bottom. This sauce is so rich and it's got all that great deep flavor, so make sure you top it with a bit of that too. Okay, and lastly, a bit of that fresh salad that we made. It's going to contrast really nicely against that very rich sauce. Wouldn't be a proper ragu if it didn't have lots of parmesan, so be generous. A glass of wine, beef cheek ragu, I think you're going to have happy days.